very much again for joining us here, the Committee on Energy. Before we begin, let me ask the Committee Secretary to acknowledge our resource persons for this morning.
Good morning. I would like to acknowledge resource persons for today's public hearing from the Department of Energy, Assistant Director Financita Periso, Energy Policy Planning Bureau. From the Department of Finance, Ms. Leia Abellanosa, Treasury Officer, Research Service, Bureau of Treasury. From the Department of Budget and Management, Mr. Joseph Cicero C. From the Energy Policy and Development Program, Dr. Maha Lea V. Rabago and Dr. Yolanda Danao. From the UP College of Engineering, Dr. Michael Angelo Pedraza. From the UP Center for Integrative and Development Studies, Dr. Millie Ann Tamayo. And from the UP School of Economics, Professor Maria Jo Abenica. And from the UP School of Statistics, Dr. Dennis Mata.
Thank you very much, Comsec. Before we begin, let me just give my brief opening statement. Actually po, 1 year na ako dito sa Committee on Energy as the chairman, and I've seen a lot of things that we can improve, and one of which really is to further develop research and evidence-based activities in the energy sector. In fact, malaki po talagang pagkukulang pagdating po sa knowledge-based in the energy sector. And for me, before I joined the Committee on Energy, I have very superficial knowledge about the energy sector. But when I started doing my homework, looking for information, aside from DOE, wala ko talagang makuhang information about the energy sector. And even here in the Senate, in the halls of the Senate, the Energy Committee being a very highly technical committee, wala akong makuhang information and data, especially research. So for a legislator and a policymaker, napakahirap naman ho gumawa ng policies na wala ho tayong basis and research. Aside from that, throughout my experience, I've been dealing a lot with the industry players. Alam ni Maha to, big players such as Maramco, Abortis, and these are really influential players in the power sector. These are the companies also we regulate. These are the companies that we make sure that they play by the rules and play by the whatever regulation that we set forth. But how can we regulate an entity kung mas magaling sila sa atin at mas marami silang information compared sa atin? So that's one of the constraints that the committee face whenever we make policies and legislation. That's why one of our favorite activities to do is to go to the internet to look for information, and we stumbled across many institutions in the US, in Europe, recently in Germany, kasama ko nga si Millie that time. Meron silang mga academe-based research institute solely focused on energy and power. Our experience mainly in Germany was really an eye-opener for me because marami sa mga kausap namin, mga professors, individuals with PhDs, individuals focused solely on energy and some in climate change. That really opened up my eyes and conclude that energy is really a vital component not only for the economy but for the development of a country. And we need people who can help us think, help us research, come up with empirical evidence to chart the course of the energy sector. That's why nagkaroon kami ng idea to create this institution, which is not unique, because actually EPDP is already doing research. But alam naman ho natin that limited lang ang lifespan ng EPDP. That's why the objective here is to institutionalize this institute, giving it a long-term perspective. We always have to ask ourselves, in the next 20 years, the next 30 years, ano ba ang itsura ng power and energy sector of the Philippines? Are we going to be purely renewable? Are we still staying in fossil fuel? Are we doing energy efficiency activities? But all of this demand heavy research. No, hindi natin pwedeng gawain lang sa ibang bansa because there are a lot of nuances. Aside from that, the objective of this bill really is to give it a global or international flavor in terms of research and planning. Alam naman ho natin na as of now, we are dependent on a lot of importation when it comes to energy and power. No? Our coal is almost 90% from Indonesia. No? That leaves us very vulnerable to a lot of shocks. So, having said that, we have to look at this sector globally and take into account the international trends that's happening around us. So, objectively ho ito ng bill. This bill is a work in progress. I cannot claim that this is a perfect bill. Marami ho kaming gustong kunin na idea from practitioners, especially from the EPDP team. Marami kayong nakitang mga dapat ayusin pa natin in the bill, including the name itself. And my vision for this bill is really to enable government and academia to level up, no? Barring the work of leveling up, to level up the knowledge base and the research capabilities of the energy sector. The energy sector cannot be treated as just a minor component of our lives. It's really a very important component of our lives, and this is really a tool or the institution that will make it more significant in everyone's lives. No? So this is really the objective of this bill. Now to go into, isa lang naman ho yung topic natin, no? To establish the Philippine Energy Research and Policy Development Institute. Ang tawag po namin PERD for short, pero again, no, this is subject to some recommendations and debate. With that, I think Millie requested to go ahead, no, because meron ho siyang pupuntahan. But we'll start with the CIPS group, and then we go on with the next resource persons.
Honorable Senator Wing Gatchalian, fellow citizens, good morning. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to share my experience and knowledge here at the Senate today and weigh in on this very important Senate bill. Okay, so I will basically draw knowledge and experience from, next slide please. Okay. From my experience as a graduate student in engineering and public policy at Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the U.S., and as the program head of the UP Sustainable Energy Program, a research program that was funded by the UP Center for Integrative and Development Studies. Thus, I am representing the UPC ideas today, although Dr. Edna Ko, the executive director of UPC IDS, expressed that she will also provide her own comments on the Senate bill. I'm also here as a committee member of the Energy Engineering Program of the College of Engineering and the deputy executive director of the National Engineering Center. Okay, next slide please. So before anything else, I would like to make my overall impression on this bill, which I think it is necessary and is a pathway to energy innovation. Okay. Well-intentioned and well-researched public policy is necessary for efficient and effective achievement of societal welfare. Policy, although, used to be left to politicians and scholars in the social sciences. With advances in knowledge and the increasing ubiquity of technology and complexity of man-made systems, it has become apparent that there are policy areas that require scientific and technical expertise. One of these fields is energy policy or energy research in general. Energy systems are very complex, and when dealing with energy policies, it is best not to treat energy technologies as black boxes. For example, determination of sustainable levels of renewable energy integration cannot be left to guesswork because socially relevant issues such as electricity price, outages, and pollution levels that affect health and environment will be affected. In the same vein, although there is value to the production of knowledge for knowledge's sake, socially relevant energy technology design requires insight from fields that deal with the behavioral and business aspect of design. Thus, an interdisciplinary approach to energy research is not only relevant but necessary. It is also seen to be a pathway to higher levels of innovation, as shown in previous researches regarding the benefits of interdisciplinary research. Next slide. Thank you. Upon finishing my PhD studies, my first order of business was to seek Dr. Rizalinda De Leon, the coordinator of the UP Energy Engineering program when I left for graduate studies, and now the Dean of the College of Engineering, UP Diliman. I wanted to know her thoughts on what kind of researches are needed by the country. She was and still is heavily involved in research on waste to energy and other renewable energy technologies. She mostly does research on technology development, but she recognized the need for energy system models as well. She pointed out that systems thinking is needed to arrive at more robust and comprehensive solutions. Next, I sought the Center for Integrative and Development Studies because I knew, as a graduate of engineering and public policy, that engineers cannot do energy research alone. The mandate of CIDS, I thought, would allow different disciplines to pitch in. With CIDS, I established the UP Sustainable Energy Program. The idea was to conduct research, provide talks on sustainable energy, and disseminate information based on the framework shown on the slide here. To achieve sustainable energy solutions, problem solvers must take into consideration four aspects: market, public policy, behavior, and technology. And these components must be looked at from a life cycle and systems perspective. We want to take into consideration the different components of energy systems and how they are interrelated to one another. To give an example of the connection of technology to behavior, let's take the case of LED lights, which are undeniably more efficient and less costly over their life cycle than fluorescent or incandescent bulbs. Research has shown, however, that consumers still buy fluorescent or incandescent bulbs because they are more aesthetically appealing or their upfront costs are lower. Although the UPSEP was started as a research program, we had a vision when we were forming it. We wanted to have an institution that would become, next slide please, sorry, a national and global resource for integrating, promulgating, and creating a reputable body of knowledge for sustainable energy decision-making in the Philippines. But, as any research program, activities are subject to funding. Thus, I was really happy to learn that the Senate, through Senator Gatchalian, has taken this really visionary step to institutionalize energy research and graduate studies in the country. Having an institution that the country could turn to for reliable, efficient, and independent energy studies is invaluable. And I think that we should support this Senate bill. When we were creating the UP Sustainable Energy Program, in accordance with its vision, we had three values in mind. Next slide, please. Transdisciplinary approach, question-based, and intergenerational. So we wanted to engage different disciplines in various sectors of the society because we believe that no
one discipline or one sector has the monopoly of knowledge in solving energy system issues. We also wanted the researches and the efforts, the talks, to stem from the right questions, from asking the right questions to arrive at sustainable energy solutions. And lastly, we wanted solutions that would span generations, that would benefit generations after us. And we also want to enable future generations to come up with creative and innovative solutions of their own. Next slide, please. So we formulated these mission statements in response to our vision and in accordance to our values as a sustainable energy program. So we propose to have periodic review of current state of knowledge and future trajectories of UP and the country, because we wanted to avoid redundancy in energy, sustainable energy research, as have been observed in not only in UP but in other countries as well. And we wanted to build on the knowledge that have already been created by other researchers. We also wanted to communicate sustainable energy knowledge to a broad audience, because I think this can also aid implementation of energy policies. Okay. Thirdly, to provide organizational and information to support to facilitate collaboration among minds from different disciplines. Working in a team, let alone a team with personalities from different disciplines, is extremely hard to be successful, and therefore providing the organizational as well as the physical place for people to collaborate, to talk with each other and share their own perspectives is, I think, necessary. Fourth, to generate and disseminate a stream of energy questions. Okay, not just the solutions, but to also tickle the minds of not just the decision makers, the people in the academe, but the lay public in general, to think about the problems that they encounter daily with respect to energy systems. And lastly, to provide public policy recommendations to decision makers. And I think that these things are also covered by the Senate bill. Okay, next. With our experience of the Sustainable Energy Program, next slide please, thank you. I think there are two major pitfalls that can be avoided. One is the inertia among academic units to do interdisciplinary research. Actually, although I worked with the Center for Integrative and Development Studies for this research program, most of the people I ended up working with were actually from the College of Engineering. We were able to engage a couple of experts from law and business, but that was it. I think it's really difficult to collaborate with people who have other perspectives or use tools, mathematical tools or models, and even equipment when dealing with these kinds of problems. Even looking at different problems is very difficult. The second pitfall is administrative difficulties in implementing research. As we all know, there are some difficulties due to procurement laws, for example, that are faced by researchers in government institutions. And I hope that these two main pitfalls can be avoided through the Senate bill. Next slide, please. So based on Section 5C of the bill, the proposed institute will help enhance the pool of graduate students doing interdisciplinary research. Although these kinds of programs have become more popular recently, I would say that the Philippines would be one of the front runners, especially in the developing world. I got my PhD in Engineering and Public Policy from the Department of Engineering and Public Policy at CMU through a DOST scholarship called Energy Research and Development for Technology. My graduate program was one of the few interdisciplinary programs that trained students to tackle policy issues that focus on science and engineering. Other schools included University of Maryland, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, UC Berkeley, Stanford, etc. As you can see, energy systems was one of the focus. One click, please. Thank you. One of the focus research areas of the engineering public policy is energy systems. Our department was housed under the College of Engineering, but we worked closely with experts from the Heinz School of Public Policy, Tepper School of Business, School of Computer Science, and the School of Decision Sciences, to name a few. I observed that while our department was working aggressively on energy research, there were some studies done in other units that seemed to be very similar. Even at CMU, which prides itself as a place where collaboration across disciplines is highly cultivated, some people still want to emphasize a certain perspective in the way they look at problems and solutions. Also, questions on energy is just too vast and complex for one department to handle. Next slide, please. Thus, I wasn't surprised when an institute devoted to energy innovation was established. This institute works with several colleges and research centers, but is not housed under any of these colleges. It is campus-wide. It is like a Sweden of energy research on campus. Next slide. I looked into other programs on energy research, and I summarize here some of them. Some are not shown here, but what I observed, and I think this should be the case, is that a more interdisciplinary focused institute usually stands separate from affiliate institutes. As you can see, the structure usually includes an advisory board and a director, just like in the proposed structure of the institute. Additionally, however, the recognition of faculty fellows and faculty affiliates is also common. Needless to say, all of these institutes have their admin staff. Now, in the succeeding slides, I will briefly discuss specific thoughts on some sections of the bill. Next slide, please. As mentioned by Senator Gatchalian earlier, there are still some questions as to the title of the institute, and I have my own as well. So, energy policy is a research area in itself. So, when we say energy research, what do we actually mean? Is the intent to cover science, technology, and policy research? If yes, it may suffice to call it Philippine Energy Research Institute, just my humble suggestion. Section 2, next slide please, I think it's great. Section 3, the establishment of the institute. Again, since the institute will be conducting multidisciplinary research, it is best to have the institute stand on its own. Housing it in one of the academic units, no offense to the School of Economics, I respect your work and I think you've been doing great work. Housing it in one of the academic units may stifle the intended multidisciplinary nature of the institute. In other universities abroad, multidisciplinary institutes are independent and function with affiliate units. The affiliate units may be recommended by the advisory board as stipulated in the section 9-3 or 9-C of the bill. And I think that in addition to engineering, law, science, statistics, and economics, it may be wise to include public administration, business administration, and public health. Because most of the criteria air pollutants come from fossil-based power plants, as well as the fossil burning transportation sector. Section 4, I think it's also great. But again, I would like to be clarified when we say energy research, what areas are we actually talking about? In most programs abroad, when we talk about energy research, these usually include energy science and technology, or energy and environment, or energy and society. Next slide, please. For section 5, for functions of the institute, B and C, for B, what does formulating and conducting research on energy discoveries mean? Are we referring to scientific and technological innovations, or behavioral and market discoveries, or all? I ask this because this will greatly affect the budget and personnel needed by the institute. When we talk about technological or scientific discoveries, we'll need equipment that are worth tens of millions. C, enhance, whereas when we're dealing with energy system models, we only usually need high-powered computers and simulation softwares. C, enhancing the master's and doctoral pool of researchers and faculty in the field of energy. We actually have a 3-decade-old energy engineering program at the UP Diliman College of Engineering that offers MS and PhD in energy engineering. The committee faculty members are all PhD holders from different disciplines of engineering. So it is interdisciplinary, but it's still confined within the College of Engineering. So having a, I would say, more comprehensive coverage would be better. And I think Dr. Pedraza and our colleagues from the Energy Engineering Program would be very happy to help in this proposed institute. Next slide, please. Section 5E, establishing local and foreign linkages in energy research and policy development. There are existing offices in UP that can facilitate this for the institute. For example, the Office of International Linkages, or OIL. Next slide. Section 9, on the organizational structure. We talk about an advisory board and an executive director. But how about making explicit the need for institute fellows and institute affiliates? Interdisciplinary institutes usually function with fellows and affiliates from other colleges. The fellows are devoted faculty members and or researchers who serve as core resource. They may be deloaded from their regular teaching load or given some incentive, while faculty affiliates are those who join the institute activities or teach courses every now and then. Section 7, next slide please. On the subject of the executive director, what does a recognized scholar in energy research and policy development mean? Maybe it would help to specify the qualifications for such a recognized scholar. Section 8, Advisory Council of the Institute. If the advisory board is not too crowded already, maybe it would be helpful to have public administration, business administration, and public health as active participants in the institute. And lastly, some other information. The Energy Engineering Program has been offering graduate programs in energy engineering, as I mentioned, and it is actually about to transfer to its new building, although it is in need of additional funding for building, finishing, and research equipment and facilities. This can be a good starting point for the Institute to develop its research laboratories. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to share my experience and knowledge. I hope I've been of help. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Millie. I just have a few questions lang, no, regarding UP CIDS, no, in which you are, I think, a senior management.
For the CIDS, I was able to procure funding for research for the Sustainable Energy Program.
Right.
But not a senior
decision maker.
No.
But in any case, let me just, I just want to be enlightened. No? With CIDS, what topics or what sectors do you cover? Do you cover everything? Energy is just one facet, or ano bang, what?
Right. So when I applied for the funding, I think the CIDS covered about 5 areas. One of them was energy. The others, I think, was marine policy, federalism, environment, and other topics. Dr. Edna Ko would be more knowledgeable on this. But yes, energy, the research center was not devoted to energy.
So energy is just one facet, and I understand it's not also the the entire gamut of energy, but only one facet, which is sustainable. The sustainable form of energy. Am I correct?
Right. So, well, the vision was actually for one to have a sustainable energy system. It's necessary for you to actually look at the entire gamut of things from and over its life cycle so that you can have a more sustainable solution. Although with the researches that were conducted in the first 2 years, they were mostly focused on the technology aspect. As I mentioned earlier, I ended up working mostly with people from the College of Engineering, some from law.
When you say technology, how do you apply that technology?
So
What is-
renewable. So we looked into the costs and benefits of renewable energy technologies. For example, we looked at how to make a more structured decision-making process for integrating renewable energy technologies through a framework called multi-criteria decision analysis. We also tried to actually come up with a data repository because we observed that there were two main research areas that they're considered low-hanging fruits. One is energy planning, but it's very difficult to do energy planning. As you said earlier, we should be looking at this from a long-term perspective, 20 or even 50 years. But it's very difficult to do that because we don't have reliable data sources. So the other of the two that I was talking about is a reliable, reputable, independent data repository.
Right. But the strategy here is multidisciplinary, right?
Yes, that was the intention.
That was the intention, to get the talents from the different schools, from the different colleges, put them together and come up with a... the output is a policy recommendation? Is that the output?
One of the outputs.
One of the outputs.
Yes, Senator.
But you mentioned earlier also na federalism is also there, so
Yes.
governance and politics is also part of that interdisciplinary activity.
Yes, Senator.
Oo.
I guess the idea when the center was created was that these different research areas could feed into each other. So maybe some outputs from the federalism could also be used for the sustainable energy program.
Right.
But it was, I don't know if that was really achieved.
But just basic questions. How many people are involved in this CIDS group?
The entire CIDS.
The entire CIDS. Is there sorry for my ignorance, how is it structured? No, meron bang full-time, or everyone is a fellow, or everyone is a part-time? How is it structured?
So from what I've observed, there's an executive director. That's Dr.
Full-time?
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Edna Ko.
Edna Ko. But she's also in the governance...
She's also a professor at the NCPAG.
NCPAG, right.
Yes,
right.
Senator.
She also runs NCPAG.
No, I
Ay,
don't
di ba?
think so.
Okay.
I think she already stepped down
Ah,
as
okay.
dean. She was previously, I think, the dean of NCPAG, and then she stepped down. And
She's now focusing on CIDS.
yes.
Okay.
And then there are research fellows. These research fellows are basically faculty members who applied for research grants under the UPCIDS. And these faculty members lead the different research activities. And then they hire their own research engineers or research assistants. And then the UPCIDS also has its own research assistants. So these are usually
Full-time.
graduate students.
Graduate students siya. But they get paid.
Yes.
They get paid.
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Now, I just want to understand the manpower complement that will actually do research on that 5 areas that you mentioned.
Right.
No, kasi okay lang naman maraming areas to research on, but depending on how the manpower complement will serve all of those areas. In your opinion ba, in that sustainable energy area, no, in which you are part of, do you have enough manpower that will help you come up with good output?
So I had around 6 research assistants.
And that's enough?
I don't think it's enough.
Okay. Alright.
And they were all from the College of Engineering.
Oo. So hindi siya naging multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
Alright. And then, kanina you mentioned the energy engineering program.
Yes.
So, when you're a student there, it's a bachelor's degree?
No, so I think Dr. Pedraza has one slide actually on that.
Okay,
If you want.
can I be enlightened on that? No?
Yes, sir. I just submitted one slide for the energy engineering program.
Ito. Right, okay.
Yeah, that's the slide. Before I start, I would like to say good morning to the good senator and to everyone in the hall. Again, I'm Michelangelo Pedraza. My background is electrical engineering, but currently I am the program coordinator of the energy engineering graduate program. As Millie has mentioned, the program is 3 decades old, more than 3 decades old, established in 1983. With the following vision and mission. Actually, it was created in 1983 because during that time there was an intense energy problem, energy shortage problem in the Philippines. But recently, we have recognized that our problem is more than energy shortage. We should be developing different policies and looking at different options that have already been considered in other countries. On the slide, I have shown there on the right side the different research areas that the energy program is doing research on. So it goes through the full cycle of energy, starting from the resources to energy conversion and storage, transmission and distribution, utilization, system modeling, and decision analysis. Take note that the program it is under the college or the office of the Dean of the College of Engineering, and it has in its as a resource the entire faculty of the College of Engineering. So the faculty teaching in this program come from the different departments. In fact, all departments of the College of Engineering, from the geodetic engineering, industrial engineering, up to computer science. So for example, in a resource, we have the resource assessment, renewable energy resources, fossil fuel, alternative fuels. We have researchers affiliated with the LIDAR project that look at potential energy resources, could be biomass or tidal or wave energy. And then we also have researchers from the Department of Mechanical Engineering looking at different conversion technologies like design of wind turbines, run-of-river technologies, and hybrid renewable energy solutions. And then for the transmission and distribution, we are looking at the entire grid and also smaller grids. Look at the different options on how to energize off-grid communities, whether should we connect it to the main grid or provide a hybrid renewable energy solution. We also have researchers from the materials engineering and chemical engineering doing research on storage, hydrogen storage, electrochemical storage, and all types of storage technologies. And then for the utilization, we also recognize that to address the energy problem, aside from providing the generation, we look at the possible contribution of demand, because demand is elastic, meaning people will respond to energy prices. If it tends to be expensive, then the consumption will go down. So we look at technology and policy solutions. And at the last part, systems modeling, decision making, we look at the entire process. So as Millie have mentioned, we have life cycle analysis, energy environmental markets, and so on and so forth.
We recognize the presence of Senator Grispo.
Good morning, ma'am. And actually this afternoon, we are heading back to UP because Millie has 2 students who will be defending their thesis. And one of them is what is the effect of wind energy in the merit order of the electricity market? How much? What is the impact in terms of the cost reduction of in the electricity? And then another student is presenting his research on hybrid renewable energy for island communities and isolated communities. And then just last year, I have a student that was able to investigate the impact of the interruptible load program in the reliability and the cost of electricity. Millie also mentioned that we are having a building. We have a building, and in fact, we're sharing it with the Environmental Energy Graduate Program. So being a graduate program, all of our students are masters and PhD students. A lot of them are full-time students. Some of them are employees from our electric cooperatives, from Department of Energy and government institutions. Well, as the coordinator of the Energy Engineering Graduate Program, I support the creation of the institute, but I also want to emphasize the need for interdisciplinary research. Again, the transition to sustainable energy has several components. It's not only technology, it's not only economics. There should be policy and there should be social solutions. So this is what I'm teaching to my students in one of my undergraduate courses. And also, we cannot isolate energy as energy per se because it also affects other aspects in our life. So what we have, this so-called energy, food, and land nexus, meaning our creation and utilization of energy affects our water. For example, do we use water for generation of electricity or do we use it to divert for irrigation? We can use energy to produce clean water like desalination. And there is also interaction between energy and food. So should we dedicate our, say, crops to producing biofuels, or should we export it, or should we consume it as food? So we have to look, we shouldn't isolate energy, but we look at as how it should be part of the entire process. Thank you very much.
Doc, what type of students take up this graduate program?
Okay, so
Ano yung mga undergrad courses?
diverse po sila. Most of the students come from the engineering field, but we have students that graduated from business,
Okay.
statistics,
But mostly from engineering.
mostly from engineering.
I was looking at the itong circle, ano. After taking this course and then you become a graduate of this course, anong trabaho ang typically pinapasukan nila? What type of jobs do they end up with?
A lot of our students are already employees of electric cooperatives. Some of them are from the DOE. Some of them are full-time students. And when they apply into the program, they have indicated their intent that they will go to the government, or they will become researchers, or they will teach in the university.
Okay. So, nakita ko very broad siya, no? Transmission, distribution, utilization. Like for example, transmission, distribution, this is highly technical, and
Yes, sir.
to a certain extent, or to a larger extent, it's engineering-based knowledge, no? But it's very broad, so I'm just wondering, after taking this course, ano yung typical position that you end up with? Are you going to be in the engineering side of the business? Are you going to be in the policy side? What type of
Right now, being under the College of Engineering, we admit that these students are highly technical. And we recognize that we need expertise from other aspects like policy, the law, economics, and even the social sciences, because we recognize that technology and engineering alone cannot solve the problem. And that's where our problem starts when, for example, we want to model how people will accept certain types of technologies, or how will the price of a certain technology play into the absorption of these technologies into the society.
Okay. Ma'am?
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. First of all, Senator Win, I'd like to say that I'm supportive of this initiative. I think that the government should really focus also on funding research and development. And you're right, it should be a multidisciplinary approach. We need, of course, engineers and technical people, but you also need those that are good with marketing your initiative. It's very important that there's public awareness in this. I think the direction in the world today is really alternative sources of energy, and we cannot just depend on countries like France to dictate to us what forms of energy we can use. We should be able to harness our own that's indigenous to us. Of course, I trust the institution, the University of the Philippines. I just hope that as part of your program is also instilling in them a sense of nationalism, so that when they graduate, they decide to stay. So incentivize instead of the Balik Scientist program, why not Remain Scientists program in our country. So again, Senator Win, thank you for pushing for this, and muli maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Grace. Thank you for your comment. And actually, yun rin natutunan namin ni Millie, no? Marketing. That's in Germany. I remember talking to one of our one of the resource persons there na at the end, no, how do you apply all of this research to, or at least part of the research to commercial operations? You know, we have to, at the end, no, we have to apply what we have learned, what we have determined to, you know, to the public. You know. That's one thing I learned. Going back, Doc, how do you, since we have this energy engineering graduate program, how do you envision it to work with the proposed PERPD Institute? That's why I'm trying to understand, what type of people come out of your school, what type of things that you teach them. But how do you now envision this your school working with this proposed institute?
Actually, sir, well, again, it should be interdisciplinary, and we recognize that we should be working together. And there was a mention in one of the section that the IRR will determine the units that will make up this institute, and we are very happy to be part of that. And we are looking forward to having this institute as a vehicle to increase the interaction between the different colleges within the university.
So is it correct to say that your school will now supply knowledge as well as talent, to the proposed institute? It will be a complementary type of relationship?
Yes, sir. Actually, whatever we can do, we are happy to offer it to the institute.
And do you see any conflict with this proposal to your school?
No, sir. Actually, it's an enabler. Because we want to coordinate with the different colleges, and again, it's going to be a robust vehicle for that to happen.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Our next is Dr. Maha Ravago of EPDP.
We also prepared a PowerPoint presentation. Good morning again, Senator and colleagues from UP and other government office. So we're here to present our comments, suggestions, and clarifications on Senate Bill 1290. I'm representing the EPDP, Energy Policy and Development Program. If I may share a little bit about the project for the benefit of the other colleagues who may not know EPDP yet. EPDP, it's a 4-year project started in October 2014. It's a project or it's a grant from USAID that is being implemented by the UPCON Foundation in support of the national government, in particular NEDA and DOE for policy research and formulation. So as a project, it's a small in terms of staffing and resources, but when we conceive it, we have this vision that it will serve as a catalyst in terms of establishing an institute much like that the bill is presenting. And back then, it's a grant, it's not even a, there's no solicitation for a proposal, because then the Secretary of NEDA was Secretary Balisacan, and in one of their cabinet meeting, they also observed what you have observing this time, Senator, that if they need something, a knowledge or a research on energy, it's difficult to find, unlike in other sector where there's already established repository of the body of knowledge. And back then, USAID Mission Director Gloria Steele also observed that there's a lot of research on energy, but it's kind of one-sided. So she was looking for a more holistic view on looking at the energy research. And then at that time also, the then Secretary Petilia was also observing that it's difficult to maintain manpower at the government because there's a lot of turnover. So he was saying that on the supply side, it would be good to have, a continuous supply even though there's a very high turnover because they are being pirated, they said, by the private sector, meaning the academy is supplying this manpower who has the capacity to do analytical research on energy. So that was the vision when EPDP was formed. So again, as a project, we have limited resources, but the vision is to have this kind of institute to serve as a catalyst and to also make it as interdisciplinary. Like it so happens that the proposal for the project came from the mostly from the Faculty of School of Economics. So it's more right now more on economics-based center research, policy research. But we do recognize the need for other discipline like engineering, statistics, and even law for the legal framework because again, the idea is to support policy making. So with that, next slide please. Let me now give you the comments of, this is a discussion among the fellows and the management committee of EPDP. So as a whole, EPDP supports Senate Bill 1290 on the establishment of the Energy Institute. Next please. We now provide specific comments as to the different sections in the bill. We suggest, like what you said earlier, the name is not yet cast in stone. We suggest to have the word national in the name of the institute, as this signifies prestige as the nation's premier energy research and policy institution. We would also like to suggest that in the bill, it might be better to define the nature of the institute. Is it an attached agency? Is it a attached agency or a GOCC? If it's an attached agency to UP. This will determine the governance and organizational structure of the institute as specified in section 6 to 8. For example, PSA and PIDS has a clear stipulation that the Philippine Statistical Authority is an attached agency of NEDA. Hence, the organizational structure easily follows from defining the nature of the institute itself. Next, on section 4 and 5, on the objective of the institute, again, after defining the nature of the institute, it also, we suggest also defining the main mandate of the institute. So it said that it's going to do policy research, but maybe the bill should already identify who is the beneficiary of that policy research, because oftentimes most of the observation when doing research is that it's just sitting on the shelf, who's using or who's reading the research. So it might be good to already define the main beneficiary of the policy research would be the national government, and it would also help in coming up with the priorities of the institute, that there's already a close coordination with the national government or the legislative office, so that it provides direction on what the country needs in terms of policy research. Section 5, functions of the institute. It may we suggest to stipulate that the institute can invest its funds in such undertaking as it deems necessary. This is to ensure the sustainability of the institute operation. We will suggest later on with regards to the funding, but an investment of its funds may also be good to be stipulated in the bill.
Dr. Maha, I have some questions. No? I saw that in your proposal. Bakit mag-invest ng... Why do we need to invest the funds? This is the funds given to the institute, and then in turn you will have that authority to invest those funds.
Not the. We will suggest later on that if it's possible that the institute can also receive contributions or donations.
Yes.
So that will be the part.
Nakita ko missing yan eh. We will include that later on. No? But assuming that you are the government or whoever gives you funds, you want to reinvest. The idea here is to reinvest that funds.
Some institute do that so that it earns additional funding in addition to the funds that they receive from the government for sustainability purposes.
All right. Okay.
Section 6, we would also like to suggest that the institute, as a suggestion on the rewarding, that the advisory council be named as board of trustees and already stipulate the formation of a management committee in the bill. Colleagues from the College of Engineering already suggested that the fellows be stipulated in the bill, but we're suggesting that the management committee be already stipulated, headed by the executive director, who will be reporting directly to the board of trustees. And the terms of appointment, whether it's part-time or full-time, and compensation and other emoluments of the management committee can be discussed depending again on the nature of the institute, if it's going to be an attached agency or what type of organization.
Dito sa section 6, no, one of the items there, component managers for research, policy development, advisory, capacity build. These will be the subcomponents. Okay.
Subcomponents of
Ito na yung pangalan niya, research, policy development, or you're magsasuggest pa kayo?
So we're suggesting this broad stroke of the different composition. This may be a component or a division within the institute.
Okay.
One focusing mainly on research, but it has to be interdependent, this components or division, because research would feed into policy formulation. It might be different because if it's basic research, it's kind of more technical in terms of language.
Okay.
So
Nag-uusap kami sa internally, no, and we have some suggestion lang naman to, no. Eventually, you guys have to agree on this. Maybe from what I see right now in the other, I searched their website, no, more thematic na yung kanilang approach. Like for example, sustainable energy, no. That's one whole department on one whole group. And then you have, let's say, energy conservation and efficiency. Then you have that. Then you have, let's say, energy security, no, which talks about upstream component of the. Kasi when you say energy, from upstream all the way down to consumer level, ang laki, eh. No, so ang ginawa ng iba, I saw in the internet, is thematic. No, so something that you might want to look at, no, but again, no, at the end, kayo end user, so you guys have to determine. But I agree that we have to put some level of, in the bill, some level of components. So once we create, nandoon na yung broad stroke component. No?
If I may comment on that, I guess the benefit of having it named as research, because like what I've said, we have to be responsive to the
Okay.
needs of the government. If we specify those themes, baka makahon. So unlike if it's research, broad stroke, and then it will be responsive to the needs of the national government and what is being the policy direction that would be given by the Board of Trustees. Next, please. This is just the more on the organizational structure. So is it going to be a faculty member who's going to be the executive director? And it might be good that we give some number of days so that once the bill is passed, then there would be, the establishment would be ensured by giving some deadlines.
Ito, you guys agree na 3 years plus 3 years? So 6 years lang siya?
I think that should be enough to have a more dynamic
Talaga?
perspective.
I thought you might want it no, in perpetuity, pero
Mahirap yan.
again, no, you guys are the end users, no? Kasi typically, mga executive directors are mahaba. I mean, once you're hired, you can be removed for cause lang, but in this case, 6 years lang in term niya. I don't know if that's a wise decision, no? Dr. Dennis?
Yeah, maybe, Senator, the purpose is to align it with the appointments at the university, because our chancellor, which is in the bill is the chair of the advisory council or board of trustees. He only served as chancellor for 6 years, maximum. One term is 3 years.
So you guys are okay with this 3 years plus 3 years? Okay.
Okay, next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, we suggest the advisory council be renamed as Board of Trustees. I think having it named as Board of Trustees would have more accountability as opposed to the word advisory council, but I don't know. This is just a suggestion. May we also suggest the inclusion of the Secretary of NEDA and also DOE. As you mentioned earlier, energy sector is a vital component of economic development, and if the policy is going to be used by the national government, it's also important to have that coordination with the national government so that the research will be used in assisting the policy formulation.
This will affect the independence of the research and policy development of this institute?
As part of BOT, they will be providing the policy direction of the institute, and they would just be two among the several deans identified in the bill.
All right.
So it's just to ensure the coordination and the usefulness of the research. Next slide, please.
Bang ganyan na setup? Can we go back to section? Is there a setup like this in UP right now, wherein some government agencies sit on the board or sit on some advisory council?
PCED, the Philippine Center for Economic Development, although it's a GOCC, not at the attached agency at the UP, it supports the UP School of Economics, but the chairman of the Board of Trustees is the NEDA secretary.
Okay.
Sorry, Senator.
go ahead.
It's the same with the National Engineering Center. The advisory board is also composed of heads of agencies such as DOE
DOST.
and DOST.
DOST,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Next, please. This one is just a suggestion, again, on the functions of the BOT. So, to recommend to the Board of Regents the establishment of the components of the Institute, whether it's components or division, and instead of monitoring and reviewing, the task of reviewing the implementation of activities of the Institute would be would rest on the management committee, but the BOT would be providing the overall policy direction of the Institute. In Section 10, we suggest, again, a review of this. If it's going to be an attached agency, again, of UP, it has to be in line with the governance and organizational structure of the university, if it's going to be an attached organization of the university. Section 12, next please. This is where we suggested the trust fund, the need to establish an endowment fund. In addition to the initial operating fund and annual appropriations from GAA, it might be good for the sustainability of the Institute to accept contributions, donations, grants, and loans from other entities. So this is the one that can be invested and earnings to be used for the operations and research of the Institute. Next, please. On IRR, it might be good that the formulation and promulgation of the IRR will be done after the identification of the MANCOM, but in consultation still with the UPBOR, DOE, and NEDA. So it might be, as is it written right now in the bill, it might be difficult if it's the BOR who's going to formulate the IRR. So probably once the MANCOM has been constituted, then in consultation with this entity, then we can promulgate and we can promulgate the IRR after, say, 180 days. And revision of the IRR may be necessary, but should take effect only after 15 days. Next, please. So, like after introducing earlier EPDP, we've been already implementing the project for 3 years now. We're now going into our 4th year, towards the tail end. We'd like to share some lessons.
Kailan matatapos yung, until when is the life of EPDP? The life is dependent on the grant.
Yes.
Okay, so when is the grant running
Ending.
out, ending?
Yes, supposedly, in October 2018, but depending on the funding, right now we're only looking until February.
Of 2018.
Yes, because of the changing political and uncertainty from the funding agency. So we're now in the third year, and some lessons learned that from implementing EPDP is we'd like to highlight the importance of having a research based at the university because of its objectivity. The common feedback that we are getting, especially with the energy stakeholders, is that we provide a neutral venue of discussion. We have to recognize that energy is not just government, especially after IPIRA. So we provide that venue even among convening different government offices. That's the feedback that we are getting because it's university-based. Even though it's implemented by UPCON Foundation, they still see us as academic-based. So there's that impartiality and neutrality that's being seen when we organize and convene the stakeholders. So again, also being at the university, we'd like to highlight the importance of credible research studies. This gain confidence from the usefulness of the results in policy and decision making. But nonetheless, we have to ensure that the research that the academe is formulating or conducting is being used for policy making. So important pa rin yung dialogue between the academe and the executive or the legislative. And being at the university, it serves as institutional repository of energy related research studies, as what you have mentioned earlier. The next slide, we'd like to show some examples of energy institute based in university. We can probably also glean some lessons from this. So this one is at the University of Berkeley. The Energy Institute is attached to a college. The Berkeley Berkeley has School of Business at University of Berkeley. And next slide, please. This one is an Energy Change Institute based at ANU, Australian National University. So I'd like to please focus your attention on the last part, technology and policy neutral. So this may be a good lesson to draw upon. It says, a defining feature of the ECI is that we are both technology and policy neutral. That is, we undertake research and education in key areas of energy technology and energy policy without favoring one particular area over another. So that's why I think it's also important to emphasize or not to have that thematic so that it comes across as technology and policy neutral, so that we don't favor, let's say, renewable over coal. We look at the holistic.
This is a state university?
ANU, yes.
So it's state university, and then the institute is state funded.
I suppose. I'm not freebie.
But then again, they're still neutral.
Yes, yes. The previous slide, please, sorry. The previous one, this one is, since it's based in the Haas School of Business, this is more of econ-centric, the policy research that they are doing. The next one, next please. This one is in UK, University of Cambridge. So again, this is Energy Policy Research Group. But I think they have, this one is more of interdisciplinary, but it's not attached to a college, but rather to the university. The next one. This one is also under the university, Stanford University, the Stanford Precourt Institute for Energy. I think this one is more focused on basic research. So among the different institute, they have the most funding, because if it's basic research, like what Neely said, it would need a lot of funding on the instrument or whatever. So this one is the most well endowed. Next one, I think the last one. This one is in Asia, NUS, Energy Studies Institute. Again, this one, on the last part, it says, we are objective. We challenge assumption, and we are credible, because they are based in the university. And I think that's it. Last slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maha. I have just a few clarificatory and then some questions about the direction. I think even kami sa internally may debate kami, should it be housed in the School of Economics or a broader school, under UP, not housed in any college? And I think later on si Ma'am who's representing UP, Ma'am Brenica, Ma'am, siguro later on you can share your insights for that. But learning from EPDP, should it be lodged under School of Economics?
I think our view, so long as it's in the university, to preserve that objectivity and neutrality and having that culture of research and academic research, that is the most important, whether it's at the school
Well,
or...
we all believe it. We all agree na this should be interdisciplinary, right? But I don't know lang. That I'm not very familiar with the dynamics of UP. If it's lodged under a specific school, will it limit the interdisciplinary vision for this bill?
I guess it would be a discussion among the colleagues,
Okay.
including the chancellor
So
and
that's a
probably the president.
basic feature nito, yung interdisciplinary, But even inside, when we were drafting this, we weren't sure kung saan ilalagay siya. Is it under not under a school or under which organization? Maybe Mama Brenica later on can give us some insights on that. But in your opinion, walang problema if it's under, that will be preserved, the interdisciplinary component.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I do agree that we should enable the institute to accept endowments, donation endowments. But one of the things that I want to limit in those endowments is conflict of interest. No, if you want to be true, independent, neutral, we cannot accept donations from Meralco, NGCP, Aboitiz, and I don't know kung mayroong mga taga-Aboitiz dito, no? But we cannot do that, no? Because once we start accepting money from these big companies, they will now have some form of influence over our research. Tama po ba? Is that something acceptable to you?
It's probably in the IRR po,
In
that
the
can
IR?
be outlined.
Okay. But we can specify it also in,
Yes, in
so
the
long
bill.
as there's no conflict of
Conflict.
interest, no? Alam ko na, I know when I was to be honest about it, no, when I was discussing this to some players, excited na nga sila, they want to donate na eh. Totoo lang, they want to donate, some of the big companies. Sabi ko, hindi, I think that runs conflict counter to the essence of this bill, of which is to be independent and to be neutral, no? So, we'll put colatilia in that provision.
Excuse me, sir.
Go ahead po,
But
go ahead.
Can we comment on
Yes,
one of
sir.
the
Sir.
comments on the organizational structure? Because they have suggested the organizational structure beyond the director. Our suggestion is, can we put that in the IRR as part of the discussion within UP? Because we, inside UP, would best know how to operate or make it happen. Yung organizational structure, like you have this management committee, board of trustees. We believe that everyone within UP would want to weigh in on that.
I think what the bill will specify will be under the component managers siguro. Or all of those four. Pero of course we will not legislate the structure itself, no? Just not to limit. Sabi nga ni Mamaha, it's a very dynamic industry, no? So we want to give the institute the flexibility to create its own structure, restructure in the future. So, but I think the important components will be on the management committee, the BOT, the executive director, up to the assistant director, up to the component managers, if that is the requirement of the institute. So, and I would defer to EPDP for their comments because may experience na sila, and of course UP, no? May comments na sila. I mean, we're open to put all of this inside the bill, but leave room for the actual management structure in the future. No? Aside from that, yung yung endowments also, that's why we invited DOF. UP, in the charter of UP, you are given tax exemptions. No? You have the privilege of enjoying tax exemptions. In the bill, wala. No? We plan to harmonize it by including tax exemptions in the institute. So, kung makakakuha tayo ng endowments, donations, anything that will require tax, may exempt na kayo. And we will get, I know DOF will have some negative reaction to this, but this is energy naman, and everyone will enjoy energy, in the future. So, but we'll hear DOF. Wala yan sa bill, but we're just mentioning it now. And then we will also, wala rin to sa bill, but I just realized this later on. We have to make sure that the performance of the institute is up to par all the time. So we will probably include a provision there of an oversight as well as output. For example, every year, maybe once a year or twice a year, we will have an oversight with Congress, para lang malaman namin kung ano yung mga outputs, what are the policy recommendations, just constant communication and dialogue with the institute. Since this will be funded by the Filipino people, obviously we want to see the performance and the output of the institute. If you guys are okay with that, lalagay namin dyan. Wala siya dyan, but help us craft nilang what type of output ang dapat makita ng Congress and what type of performance measures that we need to include in the bill. So we will make sure that the institute is performing what it's supposed to perform. We have to take note that institutionalized, so kahit wala na tayo dito, lalo na executive director, every 6 years lang yan, it will perform and it will perform up to par, and they will make full use of the budget being given to the institute. Millie, go ahead.
I definitely agree with the oversight. Most research institutes usually publish an annual report that can provide information to different sets of audience. So there could be like an executive annual report that is meant to share information to decision makers, or an annual report to share information to technical experts. So maybe 2 sets of annual report or just one.
In line with that, and in line with the spirit of FOI, and also, I'm sure in the future this will be full of knowledge. Now I'm thinking of adding a provision wherein the work should be published also. Ngayon ginagawa na naman ng EPDP, but we will probably mandate that it should really be published. So not only government, but also the general public will be enlightened, as to what are the findings, what are the research outputs, and also to include certain performance indicators in that whatever we publish. But mandated siya na sa internet siya, or for at least public's consumption. Millie?
Regarding public access of information, I just have a concern because there could be some information generated by the research that could serve as a competitive advantage for some players in the industry. So maybe there could be some provisions, I don't know if it should be in the bill or in the IRR, where those kinds of information should be safeguarded. I'm not... Yeah.
We can include some limitations on what we publish, especially if it concerns, let's say, national security. For example, you reviewed the national security aspect of NGCP or the grid. I don't think we should publish that. So, for example, pricing, rate making, the defects in the rate making, I don't think we should publish that. Kasi malalaman ng mga utilities. So I think we can include some form of limitation as to what we can publish. But in general, I think as a rule, output should be published for the public's consumption. And we will also maybe include peer review as well, no? Just to make it more dynamic. I think since we're putting money in this institute, a peer review mechanism can be helpful.
If I may, you suggested earlier, Senator, that there should be a performance metric. The UP system already has some sort of metrics in terms of research outputs, so maybe we can align the metrics for the research institute to
You
that.
can just say in line,
Yes.
or in coordinate, or in line, or in coordination with whatever UP is already doing with performance measures. No? Again, when I was going through again, may mga nakita ko for improvements. I think we should strengthen the or add a provision on affiliation, tie-ups, and just to make it, that's to put a global perspective and a global flavor in the institute. For example, if one of those institutes want to tie up with us or share information with us or work with us, I think the bill should encourage that. Then again, we have to take note that energy and power is a global industry. It's not limited to one jurisdiction. It's really interconnected in one way or the other, whether it's upstream or in supply of coal. It's all interconnected. So I think encouraging in the bill, to have affiliations, international affiliations, should be a very productive suggestion.
Senator, if I may add, at the EPDP, since it's a USAID grant, it was encouraged by USAID to have tie-ups with universities in the US. But nonetheless, as an effort from the side of EPDP, we've been reaching out not only with the institute at the US, but we also brought scholars from Japan, and also we're planning to bring in scholar from University of Cambridge in February as part of this collaboration, because we also have to be exposed at what's happening outside the Philippines.
Yung experience namin ni Millie, and some of us went to Germany, iba siya kanila eh. I mean, these guys think 20 years, 50 years down the road, and the research they put into is unbelievable. Dahil, for example, energy efficiency alone, they have a whole academe dedicated in how to, from behavior all the way to technology, all the way to legislation. Because you have a legislation, kung ayaw naman ng tao, wala rin. So all of this demands a lot of research, and they look at trends also. So we can learn from them. Definitely, if the institute can tie up with some German energy policy institute there, then I think we can learn from their discoveries, and their research. Yeah. Other than that, wala na akong any more comments, Dr. Maha?
Sir, question lang po.
Sige po.
Because one of the problems in doing research is data, access to data. I don't know what's the answer to the question, but how can we be empowered so that we could access information from government agencies? Sometimes NGCP holds information that is crucial to doing our simulations.
Very good question, because since we are in a deregulated regime in which the components of the power sector are in the hands of the private sector, a lot of those information is very difficult to get. I'm sure si Ma'am Assistant Director will attest to that, either delay or ang hirap kumuha, and those are necessary to come up with timely recommendations and policy development. Tingnan namin how we can include that. Let me think about it thoroughly and how to empower the institute to get information, maybe from DOE, and since DOE is the general supervisor of all these components, it has the legal mandate to extract information, maybe through DOE. And maganda nga siguro na DOE is part of the board, so they can Pwede sila magbato ng information, ano. But let me think about that. That's a valid concern.
One last, I forgot to put emphasis. The budget would also, I mean, the provision of, we mentioned in the bill, the capacity building at the academy and also at the government agency. It's also important to provide scholarship for grad students to encourage students to do research, because this would be the part where there's a continuous supply of manpower doing analytical research on the sector. So
what you envision, Dr. Maha, is the institute can grant scholarships.
but
Okay.
it would not be a degree granting college, because that would be already at the School of Economics, Statistics, Engineering.
Okay.
So just the scholarship.
Paano siyang, ano yung scholarship to study in the other colleges? Yan ba yun?
Yes, in UP or in other university, but so long as the research focus is on energy.
Okay. Alright. Sige. We'll include that. Wala yata tayo dyan. Okay. Alright. Any last few words, Dr. Maha? Yun lang. Alright. Thank you very much. And then we go to kay Ma'am Abrenica. Ma'am, as the representative of UP, no?
School of Economics po.
Socio-economics. Okay.
Thank you, Senator. I'm speaking on behalf of Dean Orville Solon and the faculty of the School of Economics. First of all, Senator, thank you very much for recognizing the school. That's a big honor to be placed in the bill and to be entrusted with that responsibility. Okay. I think the issue at hand is whether to create a new body that would focus on research. And maybe I would be taking a different tack from what the previous speakers have already said. Okay, to my mind, the current arrangement, meaning no new research institute, is working well for the following reasons. The advantage of having independent research and not limited by a bureaucracy and by civil service rules and all that, okay, is that these institutions can do independent research. They can explore different fields of study and not needing to be answerable to anyone. I think that is the spirit of academic research. Being part of the academe, that is what drew us to this sector, even if the pay is not as attractive as it is in the private sector. So it is the independence, and even if the money is not there, we are able to do research and we're able to source our funding from different agencies without conditions most of the time. I must also say that most of the funded research that we get from ODA, okay, they start with a well-defined research agenda. But this research agenda can very much be influenced by what is needed by the government. And I can say that for USAID-funded research, EU-funded research especially. So they take their cue actually from the government agencies, what they actually need. And the academe is very much willing to help and support those kind of research. So while we do research that do not immediately benefit policy making, because these are so-called basic research, we also do policy oriented research. And that, I think, what is just needed is for the government agencies to tell us what they need, the DOE, ERC in particular. Our concern about creating a new research institute are the following. First, it would be another government body. So even if it is created under UP, and I'll like to share some of the experiences of UP in this regard, creating a new center. So, but that would be for later, maybe. The Technology Management Center is one of them, and the ISSI. And we have not, I must say, found a good formula to make it work. The idea was also to do it, to make these institutes, research groups, interdisciplinary. Okay. That will be for later. So one, it's another government body, if it is within UP, and it would be subject to the same restrictive procurement and audit rules, salary caps, civil service rules that we are burdened with. And so, in the case of UPCon, for example, when we do research, well, some of our UP faculty members, when we do research, we enjoy the having to do it not in UP as the recipient of the fund, but as UPCon. UPCon is a private sector, so we're not limited or constrained by those public service rules. The other problem we have with this Energy Institute is that eventually it would have to raise money on its own. And I think Professor Maha even suggested that it should be given an additional function of investing its funds. I mean, we are in the academe that raising funds is not our forte. It's not our business. Okay. And especially in the bill, it is mentioned, Section 9.4, the Advisory Council is mandated to generate resources and obtain logistical and financial support for the programs and components of the Institute. While there is a trust fund allocated in the bill, I think it's putting much burden on UP to make sure that another government unit can be sustained, and the responsibility of generating resources is quite huge. Okay, I mean, UP has a lot of needs already, academic-wise, and for this additional responsibility, I'm not speaking in behalf of the Chancellor, but I think it would be burdensome for the UP to have that function. The main function of the academe is to provide training and create knowledge. But we also do extension work that directly service the needs of the government and public in general. So I guess what I'm saying, Senator, is that what we are good at is really providing training. And in fact, UP School of Economics is starting with an MDE program tied up with the DBM, Department of Budget Management, and we're also receiving grant for that. And this is to build in-house capacity of DBM, not only to do research, but also to do other things. I should also mention that we're starting some talks with BSP also to help them both in research and training of their personnel. So, okay, as an academic institution, my plea is that we should not be burdened with responsibilities that government agencies are mandated to do. Policy making, for example, doing research for policy making. We could collaborate very well with them, but the main responsibility should be with those agencies tasked to do it. And so what we would like to propose really is to build the capacity of DOE and ERC, and to not just to do policies, but also to do research and tap the resources of the academe on a case-to-case basis. Okay. If there are resources available, okay, I guess those resources are better directed in granting scholarships to government personnel already in DOE and ERC. Okay. Senator Po mentioned the problem of how sure can we that those given scholarships will continue to be in the Philippines. If you are in DOE already and ERC and you receive a scholarship grant, you're bound to stay for at least a number of years with them. But if you capacitate them, then you are also build some sort of a loyalty and with them, in them, to remain in the government agency. And I guess that's even a long-term solution. But I should also mention that a lot of it is really, okay, because the problem that keeps on coming up is mediocrity is a problem in government agencies. But it's really a function of innovative leadership. And some secretaries, some leaders are more open to accepting research, okay? Some are not, some are more close-minded than others. But okay, building another institution outside of those agencies are I think, not the solution. I guess one model that we could cite here is the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. They have recently, or about 2 years ago, created a research institute within BSP to advise the Monetary Board. And now they are, okay, as I said, initial discussion with us, not only to collaborate in research, but also train some of their personnel and get the degree from the School of Economics. So it would be similar to the program that we will start with the DBM this August. So we'll have a program separate for DBM and maybe another program separate for BSP. And I guess we cannot rule out also at this point another program jointly with DOE and ERC. We have the existing program now called Masters in Development Economics. That started actually way back in the 70s. And at that time, the students then were actually sent in by different government agencies. And they are now, very much well-placed in government. Secretary Yusek Hilbeltran of DOF, to name just a few, and even Secretary Ben Jokno was a graduate of that program. So okay, we've produced really good policymakers in that program. But sometime in 2006, when government experienced fiscal problem, okay, they stopped sending students to us. I guess it was not just to us, but they stopped giving scholarships granting scholarships to their personnel. So that became a problem, and that is why we have, now I say, 40% of our students in government, but these are self-financed students. They finance their way to the school. But with government resources now, more government resources now, and if this bill is actually allocating money for the energy sector, I guess scholarships could be granted more freely now and to the different programs, not just of the School of Economics, but also of other schools. My last point, Senator, is I'd like to emphasize that because at the start of the bill, there was mention that so far the research in energy have been funded by foreign institutions. I'd just like to say that foreign-funded initiatives are okay. Especially if the work is done primarily by local experts and supported by foreign experts. The source of funding does not have to undermine the independence of research. And, many examples can be cited for that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Ma'am Brenica, let me just categorically ask. No? So the School of Economics is not in favor of creating another institute solely for energy research.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Senator.
Meron na bang other institutes under the School of Economics? Are there any other things like this or organizations like this created under the School of Economics?
May I say, Senator, that as a faculty, we have not even decided whether to pursue an energy program or not. We have not yet made that decision.
Okay. And but other than energy, other sectors or other topics, meron na bang ibang
Yes.
under the School of Economics?
We have the health policy development, and
That's a program or
that's
it's a
prog-
center?
That's not a center. That's I should say, more of a program.
Okay.
Because several of our faculty members are involved in health research,
Okay.
health policy
Other-
research.
other than-
And then another one on more recently, we received funding from one bank, and this is now being used as an initial support for monetary and financial economics program.
So these two programs po.
So far, those two programs, may I say, sorry to interrupt, Senator, I guess I have to clarify that programs are made by, are decided upon by the faculty, and it's not fund-driven. It is based on whether we have enough faculty who are actually interested in doing such kind of research, and whether the faculty thinks that that kind of program is where we would like to focus on.
These two programs, are they newly created or they have been there for quite some time?
The last one that I mentioned is about 2-year-old. The health policy has been there for 5 or 6 years.
And these are solely under the School of Economics.
Yes.
So hindi ho kasama yung mga ibang colleges. So it's
Yes.
not interdisciplinary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you mentioned earlier also that in UP the interdisciplinary concept is not working.
We have not, let me put it this way, Senator, we have not found the formula to make it work.
Okay.
I guess the first, the good example for that is the Technology Management Center. The initial money came from Canadian funding agency, and the intention was also to do research on technology management and to also develop academic programs on technology management. It was even headed, when it started, by the Chancellor. So you could just imagine, and the initiative actually came from the Chancellor at the time. So, I mean, that the prospects then at the beginning were really, really
So how come
huge.
it's not, in your opinion, how come it didn't work?
Yes, I think Professor Milley cited that even if they want to do interdisciplinary research, there's such kind of, if I may use her word, inertia, okay, an interdisciplinary research. This is something that I don't think can be, the experience with Technology Management Center and the ISSI, okay, bear out on that this is something that cannot be, should I say, imposed, or, okay. It should really be born out of recognition among the professors on the need to do interdisciplinary research.
Okay.
Just having the money, just having the resources to do it will not actually draw them together, because each discipline has its own approach, and okay, you need to have the faculty, the researchers recognize the need to collaborate. That's how it would work.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that instead of creating a new institute, we rather empower existing policymakers,
Yes.
develop their capacities. Like for example, in this case, DOE, no, develop the capacity of DOE.
And ERC.
And ERC, no? But how do you now, DOE and ERC, no, are definitely, these are very dynamic institutions. And to develop them also demands interdisciplinary interdisciplinary program, no? Because energy in particular, I can say, is talagang ano siya, maraming facets yan eh. So, how do you now envision, no, to develop the capacity of these policymakers, taking into account an interdisciplinary mechanism or program? How do you?
One of the capacity that
Ma'am, but can you?
Senator, one of the capacity that needs to be developed in those agencies is actually the ability to tap the resources. No one institute would have all the resources it needs to do interdisciplinary research. And so, okay, I guess the DOE and ERC, they have engineers, they also have people in different fields. If we have resources and additional plantilla can be granted to do scientific research within these agencies with different background, I guess it could work.
All right. Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much for your comments. Next is DOE, Director. Before we go to Millie, maybe you have any...
Oh, I just wanted to respond because my word inertia was used. So I just wanted to point out that maybe there could be a force to overcome that inertia, and that force is actually the desire for collaboration and the existing need for energy studies. And I think UP already has, I think, demonstrated the desire to do these kinds of studies as manifested by the EPDP, the Energy Engineering Program. And there is a need to put all these resources and these interests, I think, in one institute so that we can have, an easy access to strategic research that can provide solution to the energy problems of the country.
Thank you. Thank you, Millie. Ma'am? Go ahead po.
Good morning, Senator, Honorable Senator, and esteemed colleagues in this table. Senator, we do not have a formal presentation, but just we would like just to convey our support to your bill. And we thank the good Senator for actually taking this strategic step in initiating the establishment of an independent multidisciplinary research institute, no? Because this is actually one of the thrusts of the present administration is to really enhance the research capability or even get support from the academe. And I just wrote my comments, Senator, as the discussion went along, and one of the concerns we have is also where to house the institute. Is it going to be within the University of the Philippines? Because there are actually other institutions, even universities, that have also good research undertakings, no? So I think it may not only be confined with the UP system, although we acknowledge the fact that UP is assisting DOE in much of its policy work. Like for example, with EPDP, the work is ongoing, the collaboration is ongoing. We also have collaboration with a group of Dr. Tamayaw. We have a forthcoming nuclear energy forum in August, and we are partners in that undertaking, no? So we have lots of collaboration also with UP, but we also like to acknowledge the fact that there are other schools really And if we could have this institute that is not only UP-based, but actually a conglomeration or aggregation of various institutes in the country. And so that's one. So where to house this institute? I don't know if you would also like to house it within the premises of the Department of Energy, because that might lessen a bit the independence, no? But or as to the structure, I don't think it could be in your mind that it could be an attached agency of DOE, or just to borrow the idea of Dr. Abrenica, that we just beef up the research unit of DOE. Actually, the work unit that will really benefit from this institute is the work unit that I belong to, the Energy Policy and Planning Bureau. We have a Policy Formulation and Research Division, and solely this division actually it has its researches, modeling, simulation, all for the National Energy Plan and also for the local energy plans, no? So we really will benefit from this institute, sir. So I was also thinking that in terms of, you were saying that the output, the deliverables of this output should really be timely and responsive. And we believe so, and DOE conducts its annual strategic planning workshop, wherein that could provide a venue wherein the institute can sit down and discuss the priorities of the sector. So that's one, no? And then yeah, we also like to pursue your thoughts, Senator, that we need to strengthen the affiliation and linkages of this institute. In APEC, we have the so-called Asia Pacific Energy Research Center. So in terms of the peer review, we could actually collaborate with APEC. So, and then in ASEAN, we have the ASEAN Center for Energy, which is also on the energy research side. And then we also have this research institute based in Japan, which is ERIA. So these are research centers that we could probably, that could provide us some benchmarking in terms of the topics that they pursue. And yeah, the thing is to establish the linkage between DOE and this institute, so that we could maximize the benefits, the opportunities. As to the data, it is a challenge for DOE, really. We have a lag time of around 3 months to 6 months even, no? So we have a lag time, and we like to impose that requirement that they deliver timely data also, because for our energy policy and planning. But DOE is willing to take the task of collaborating with institute. If ever this institute is going to be established, that we will provide the data on a timely basis. But of course, we have to compel the industry players also to deliver the data to us. And then another point that I would like to make is, from the UP Engineering School, we have graduates, young graduates, who are now employed at the DOE, and they are now in the power sector. They do the simulation, timely simulation, and we are happy that we have them with us. No? They are in different bureaus of the department, in the Energy Resource Development Bureau, also in the Policy and Planning Bureau, and in the power industry. In the oil industry, they are almost spread around, no? And they provide interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary knowledge to the department now. And another comment is that as of focus areas, the institute could probably take a look also on energy and environment, energy and climate change, energy and disaster risk, and even energy and gender and development. These are some areas that we need some research assistance. And then I think, Senator, we also, to the Office of the Assistant Secretary Arguisa, we also submitted our position. So apart from the support that we convey to the good Senator, we also said that in terms of the Executive Director, we said here that Executive Director in Section 7 thereof should be selected from among qualified members of energy research community, perhaps also with the help of the DOE, and not just only from the faculty of the University of the Philippines. So, and then in Section 8, we said that the DOE must also be a part of the advisory council to the institute. Other competent authority in the energy field as well as other stakeholders may likewise be considered in the council. Senator, in our RA 7638, there is a provision which says that we can count on a council for advisors on energy affairs. We used to have that. The representation is from labor, consumer group, the industry, power industry, and there is it is a multidisciplinary advisory council, but wala na po siya ngayon pero dati po na-activate siya for a while under the presidency of FBR. Okay. So those are some thoughts, Senator, and we would look forward to the way forward of this bill. No, I think the presentations done by our colleagues from UP, I think your office will be the one to consolidate all of these comments, and DOE will be happy to assist in the finalization and even in the formulation of the IRR of the said bill. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Bariso. Ma'am, just ano lang, no, basic questions. You're now with the Planning, Energy Policy and Planning Bureau, of which I would assume kayo po yung in charge doon sa Philippine Energy Plan, ano? And obviously this plan is really a guide, no, for all of us policymakers also. So you put together information and crunch the information. Nakikita niyo ba na itong institution, no, which is being proposed, do you see a how do you envision that this institution to work with DOE, considering that you have your own policy and planning group, no? How do you envision this to work with DOE?
Yeah, like I mentioned a while ago, that we have this annual strategic planning workshop wherein the secretary or who is ever at the energy helm actually puts down the priorities, lays down the priorities of the energy sector. And it would be strategic if we can work together with the institute on these priorities.
But what do you see that they have that DOE
does not have at the moment?
Yes, the DOE does not have.
I think their research capabilities, maybe the DOE and all its bureaus have their own programs, no, activities. Sometimes the focused research is being relegated to the background, no? So the focus, the intensive, no? Because we have a day-to-day task, we have monthly targets, annual targets to contend with or to reckon with. But this institute would actually be
So yung ginagawa nyo day-to-day?
Yeah, hindi naman po. Meron kami pong mga targets kasi. So we have to accomplish those targets po.
Okay.
Oo. So itong researches na gagawin ng institute na ito, makakatulong ito kasi ito yung take another perspective. It's going to be an outside perspective na makakatulong sa amin. And kaya lang po ang researches na to ay kinakailangan grounded din. So it would help if we can partner, our team can partner with this institute. Like it's going to be a hands-on training na rin, no?
Right. Meron na kayong nagamit sa kanilang mga
Kasi po,
mga research?
yes,
At least with EPDP?
with EPDP, mainly the researches of EPDP are more on the power industry. Yes,
Right,
more
right,
on the
power industry. Oo.
And I
Meron na ho
believe so,
kayong
so,
nagamit na output nila?
yun po yung aming titignan kasi kung meron po naman silang pine-present palagi sa amin, ano, and then yun po nagagamit din sa mga policy statements, no, but
Okay.
we would like to also have an inventory of how our Power Bureau, for example, has benefited from the researches done by EPDP. Ang research po na, for example, some years back, we had a collaboration with PIDS on how
But
to...
your work with EPDP, is it on a regular basis or case-to-case basis?
EPDP.
Or case-to-case? Probably case-to-case.
Case-to-case
Case-to-case
basis.
lang. Wala pang formal engagement with EPDP.
Actually, we discussed with EPDP on the priorities.
Okay.
Yes, they discussed this with the former and the new secretary. Yes. So, EPDP now has I think has a set of topics that it is taking
Kanina
on.
si Ma'am Abrenica made a good point, no? That since policy maker na kayo, why not just empower your group? Is that something that what do you think of that comment? Is that something feasible for DOE?
Yes, it is worth thinking also, sir.
So if that is going to be the track, ano yung mga naisip niyong steps that you can ano yung mga naisip niyong steps, no, so we can achieve that track?
Okay.
And is that
yes.
from your DOE experience, no, kaya ba gawin yun? Is it possible to build up your policy team, your research team, hawakan sila, no, just to make
Yes.
sure na hindi
The brain drain.
oo,
Yes.
just to make sure that is that a feasible
Feasible in the sense that we could keep our people together. Even
well,
after-
first is to develop an in-house.
Yes, I think yes, it's a big yes, sir.
Okay.
And then we would really like to have actually in EPPB, in our bureau, we have multidisciplinary staff, no.
Sila ba ang
yeah.
staff nyo in your group?
Opo, sa amin po is about 45 to 50.
Okay.
So, and they have 3 sections. You have the planning division, you have the policy formulation, and the international and project monitoring division.
Okay.
So, you know, we actually would like to have some training for our people.
Okay.
Yun po yun. Gustong-gusto namin yun sana.
Yeah,
Para
but itong 45 to 50, enough na ba ito for a thorough creation of a policy? Tama na ba? You see...
because they have different different trusts, different tasks as per division. But this policy formulation and research division, we actually have we have actually an existing proposal with DBM to beef up this division.
Do you see any conflict with this institute? Magkakaroon ba ng conflict? For example, this institute will be created. Is there a conflict you see?
Well,
with-
initially I was discussing with our OIC of the Policy Formulation Research Division. How will this yun na sir, yung ganon, paano na yung, ano nyo, yung division ninyo? Do you think makakatulong? Makakatulong po kasi sa kanila ibang perspective yon from another perspective, outside looking in, no? So parang ganon. So kami naman, ano na kasi kami, we are in, we are in the system, so therefore, another perspective would give us a new insight. But these researches should actually be grounded, meaning to say, sana po sa pag-research nila, may makasama rin taga Department of Energy para
No, that's why the
matuto na rin.
proposal is to
Oo.
put DOE in the board, eh.
Yes.
No, para there is a collaboration with
Yes.
DOE.
Yeah. So, that's one.
All right. Thank you po, ma'am. Our next is, ito na yung mga other agencies. First is NEDA. Yeah, any comments regarding this?
Sir, only 2 points. As we read the House bill, actually, we have the same view with Department of Energy on where to house the institution. Because in the past, we have also worked with other universities that also have the expertise and capacities related to energy. For example, when you speak of biofuels or bioenergy, there are UPLB has also the capacity. Other state universities in the north has also the capacities.
Sir, can we hold, tawag lang ako sandali, no? We'll suspend the hearing for a few minutes. I'll come back. I guarantee you we'll finish before lunch. Opo. All right, thank you. Sorry po for we have lastly department and I think these are we just want to get your comments even though alam ko na yung mga comments inyo, but I just want to put it on record. Neda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, for us, initial comments lang for the Senate bill. We have the same concern with DOE on where to have the institution. Kasi for now, we have also encountered with other universities that handles energy concern. Well, at least for my group, for an engineering perspective, we've seen experts from other universities on UP Los Baños and from state universities up north with regards to concerns regarding biofuel energy. So our concern is where to house that. So other academicians would also be taught or as a fellow in the institution. Another concern is we find value on creating an institution because well, at least for our case, we come from a small group under NEDA, from a power division. We have a minimal staff to handle energy concern, but at the same time, NEDA always strives to capacitate its personnel. So we find value purpose creating an institution kasi, Mr. Chair, we also recognize na iba po yung perspective from the inside out, as said by Ma'am Kay. Kasi iba rin pag nasa government ka na for a long time, you have a different perspective. So if you have a policy recommendation or assistance from the outside, from an independent institution, it would be helpful for us. But as I stressed out, in NEDA, we also strive to capacitate our personnel. And we also recognize that PRDF is also an attached agency that we also collaborate from time to time, Mr. Chair.
But I understand PIDS kasi is all-encompassing, you know? And I noticed the policy researches that they generate, yung turnaround, tagal eh. Minsan 2 years, 3 years. Like the last energy policy paper nila was 2 years ago yata yun eh.
Yes, sir. Kaya, as I said, sir, we find din naman value for that. We have collaborated with the EPDP group, with the group of Dr. Pedraza on some instances, and it was very helpful to us po. And at the same time, it would be nice if an institution would also capacitate government personnel para in the long run, we can also do our research independently po.
All right. Thank you. Next is DBM, sir. Nakita nyo siguro magkano yung request, ano? So,
yes, I've seen it. It's almost 500 million. 600 now.
650 to be exact. No? So,
That must probably require the ICC approval. Tama ba ko? 500 million po ba? Okay. Sige. Anyway, yes. Good morning, Senator. Good morning, everyone. Well, actually, the bill is really commendable and great, as what our resource person said. But we think that there are two important questions that need to be addressed. Given the rationale of the bill. One is that, is there really a need for a legislative enactment for the purpose requiring a separate budget? The other one is there really a need for a Philippine Energy and Policy Institute? So, for the first question, there are actually a number of institutes already, Mr. Chair, under the University of the Philippines that were created through Republic Acts. These are the Philippine Eye Research Institute, the Newborn Screening Reference Center, and there are other institutes also that were created by through their Board of Regents. And these institutes, whether they are enacted by Congress or created by their Board of Regents only, these are all actually unfunded mostly unfunded.
These legislated institutes are all unfunded?
Yes, mostly, sir.
So hindi-
Because of their budgetary requirements. Until now.
Okay.
And their funds mostly come from their donations, grants.
Okay. But they remain operational?
Somehow, yes, as far as I'm
I don't know
concerned.
if anyone can answer if they
Yes.
are operational or they're hibernating or...
Yes, so on this line, actually, sir, there are avenues by which the particular unit may be created other than the legislative enactment. One under Section 13 of the UP Charter that allows the Board of Regents the power to create, organize, reorganize, merge constituent universities, these are the campuses, colleges, and institutes, that what we have right now, and other academic and administrative units. So that's part actually of the power of Board of Regents already. So what we are doing right now for another institute by virtue of a legislative enactment, it might run counter somehow to the power of the Board of Regents to create, to modify. So when time comes that they would want to modify or to merge this institution that we're gonna create now, so that will run counter to their powers, because they cannot do that. They have to ask for the amendment of the law for it to be modified, diba? So that's one. Second is more than debating on the necessary instrument to effect the creation of the Philippine Research Energy Institute. Is there really a need for a separate energy research and policy institute? Because actually, the proposed functions of this institute is already covered under by the DOAs, most of them. And DOA being being tasked to prepare, integrate, manipulate, organize, supervise, control all plans, programs, projects, and activities of the government relative to energy. The other one, it's within the mandate also of the energy section of the Industrial Technology Development Institute under DOST, which is responsible for the multidisciplinary industrial research and development, technical services, and knowledge translation or technology transfer and commercialization. Okay, so the other question is there really a need for a Philippine Energy and Policy Institute? We are asking this because the energy research is already covered or can be very well covered by established agencies and systems that we have right now. So the UP itself is committed under its charter, again, under Section 7 of its charter, is committed to contribute to the national development in pursuance of its mandate by providing assistance to other government agencies like Congress, Supreme Court, and other government agencies, as well as constitutional body may request the National University to conduct research or provide advice on matter involving public policy. But the budget should come from the requesting agencies. That's part of their mandate. Okay. Another one is there are research services given to all universities nationwide, and another research services under CHED, which we can tap, to contribute to coming up with an improved energy research agencies. So that's another one. And more than anything, we believe that especially the requirement for an additional organizational structure for this institute, thereby augmenting its manpower requirements, we believe that it runs counter to the legislative priority of the President on right sizing which aims to eliminate redundant, duplicative, and overlapping functions and organizations in the government. So, with that, at the most, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Chair, I think we think that this enactment may not be necessary at all. In the spirit of prudence, economy, and efficiency, the existing agencies and systems that we have now may be strengthened instead or improved to address the concerns espoused in this bill. There is one more thing also, sir, before, actually, that's the end, pero ngayon ko lang din siya naisip, considering na we already talked with the DOF regarding the trust fund that this institute requires. Basically, it runs counter to the idea of that treasury single account also. And more importantly, most of these funds will come from private donors, grants, and it's not actually good to mix it up with government funds within a particular trust fund. So it's not acceptable either in both budgeting or accounting parlance to mix up the private and the government fund in one trust fund. So that's
the creation of a trust fund should be separate for private endowments.
I
and
think, sir,
government.
it's better if you will really pursue on this. It's not supposed to be a trust fund.
What?
So it's to be a regular MDS, Modified Disbursement Scheme account, wherein it can be accommodated within the treasury single account, where the government can monitor every day, real time, the money of every agencies. So if you put it in a trust account, it cannot be monitored.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last resource person is DOF. We didn't put any tax-related or fiscal-related provisions, but as I mentioned earlier, there's a proposal, no, and we plan to include whatever UP is enjoying to this bill. So yun yung magiging direction, no? So.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and to all the resource persons and guests here. So regarding the tax exemption, sir, I don't think that I'm representing the Treasury under DOF. So I think the DOF itself could answer the impact with regards to the tax exemption. But our position on the Treasury, as mentioned by Mr. Joseph, is that about the creation of trust fund, because as he said, we have the treasury single account, and our suggestion or our question is that, is there really a need to create the trust fund? Because I think it's possible that would it be possible that it should just be included to the appropriations in the for example in UP, because we think that
Trust fund?
I really am not sure, but there are accounts for
But
for example,
UP can receive endowments.
actually,
Right?
sir,
Tama ba? I'm just
yes, yes, sir. So I'm going forward. I think because right now with the treasury single account, we did not allow, or if possible, we suggest that there's no any other accounts or trust funds to be opened outside the treasury. So it's possible that the 500, for example, the 500 million or 650 million would be allotted to this purpose, but we do not want, or it is suggested that it should be managed by Treasury. So as mentioned earlier by DBM, it should be an MDS account, which we could monitor and for transparency purposes. So that's just the comment of the Treasury.
All right, thank you very much. With that, can I request your position papers? Maganda yun sa DBM eh. So please submit to us your respective official position papers, so we can take that into account. Any more last comments, Dr. Dennis?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to clarify on some of the issues raised by the speakers. NEDA and DOE mentioned that we need to also include in the institute faculty members from other universities. I think that's coming up outside UP. And I think that is the relevance of the comment earlier of Maha on the change of the title from Philippine Energy Institute to National Energy Research and Policy Institute, so that you can have inclusiveness of all these other university fellows, no, coming from outside the UP. And I would like to also put in the comment of Dr. Joy Abranica, because in Section 3 there is the specific mention of the School of Economics, that the institute will be housed at the School of Economics. Perhaps we can, my suggestion is we can broaden this to just say establish at the University of the Philippines, so that it would be more general, leaving the Board of Trustees or the Advisory Council, the Chancellor of UP Diliman or the President of the University System to perhaps, just identify possible resources or building where the institute could be located. And on Section 8, because there were two resource speakers who suggested additional membership of the Board of Trustees or the Advisory Council, I'd like to have a pragmatic view on the number. Right now, the number is 7, as is. There's 7 members. And the idea is to limit the number of the membership. Board of Regents of the University of the Philippines is just 11. The PIDS Board of Trustees is just 5. So there are issues if, calling meetings, for example, of the Advisory Council of the Board of Trustees. So maybe we can think about limiting really the number of members of the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis. Any last words po, ma'am?
Senator, I think I missed the point, but I was reminded by my colleagues here that the vision actually of the policy formulation research division of our bureau is actually to create something like the structure of the U.S. Energy Information Administration, which is actually a part of USDOE. And it is actually the agency that is responsible for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating energy information to promote sound policy making. So it's something like a research center that is of help or aiding the USDOE. So that is our vision actually.
It's under the Department of Energy in the U.S.
Yes, under the Department of Energy of
ng,
US.
ng United States, no? Yeah. But that's what I understand from that, it's a repository of many data, no, of many information, many researches, including statistics. But that you can access that, eh. Anyone can. I don't know kung anyone, no, but it's open to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our vision actually.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Any last words from kung wala naman po, we would require you to submit your position papers, official position papers. I think that will really help us refine, move forward or otherwise. So please submit to us your official position papers not later than June 9, no? June 9. All right, and we will decide internally whether, since I heard a few opposition to the bill, we will study very carefully the reasons why there is opposition, and we will decide internally whether to pursue it. I will also consult the other members of the committee whether to pursue technical working group or not, no? Yan talaga po yung next step eh. But your position paper and of course the discussions here will guide us, and I will consult the other members as to the next motion. All right. So with that, thank you very much for your time and thank you very much for your participation. Magandang umaga po. Meeting is adjourned.